Look at them sending a single human diplomat to the Grand Council. The arrogance Grand Councilor Daxter crystalline appendages clinked against his ceremonial staff as he gestured toward the approaching transport vessel. Through the chamber's vast observation windows, I, Ambassador Krill of the Nexian Empire, stood quietly observing from my designated alve in the Grand Council chambers, being blessed with compound eyes that could process multiple viewpoints simultaneously. Was particularly useful during these tense diplomatic gatherings. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid of pure rhodium and enhanced with quantum crystalline structures, sparkled with an almost supernatural radiance under the light of 3 artificial suns. The council chambers were designed to intimidate. There was no question about that. 200 levels of circular galleries rose toward a ceiling that disappeared into darkness. Representatives from over 10,000 species filled these galleries, their forms ranging from crystalline beings like Daxter to gaseous entities contained in specialized environmental suits. The air was thick with a cacophony of translator drones, creating a constant background hum that reminded me of the sacred prayer halls back on Nexia Prime. Ambassador Krill, a familiar voice buzzed in my translator. Your assessment of this human situation high. Chancellor Vex floating for drifted closer, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in what I recognized. As concern, I adjusted my sensory membranes before responding. The humans have chosen their representative well. Chancellor Marcus Steele's diplomatic record is interesting. Vex patterns flash curiosity. Do elaborate. Every diplomatic mission he's undertaken has succeeded, but there's something odd about the record's gaps in consistencies. Reports that don't quite align. The chamber's massive entry portal began its ceremonial opening sequence, drawing every eye in the room. The human transport had docked. A hush fell over the assembly, broken only by the soft the arrival whir of environmental systems and the gentle pulse of the quantum crystalline matrices that powered the station. Marcus Steele entered alone for a species that many considered primitive. He cut an imposing figure, tall for a human, dressed in what I recognized as formal diplomatic attire, a perfectly tailored black suit that seemed to absorb light rather than reflected. His movements were precise, measured, almost predatory, but it was his eyes that caught my attention, gray as space dust, and just as cold. Protocol dictates a minimum of 3 representatives for full council sessions. Daxter announced, his voice dripping with artificial concern. Surely Earth received the regulations packet. Steele's smile never reached those gray eyes. Earth received all relevant documentation. Counselor, I speak with the full authority of my government. One voice for an entire species. Someone scoffed from the upper galleries. Typical human arrogance. I noticed something that made my sensory membranes quiver. Where most beings showed signs of stress or anxiety when confronted with the council's grand grure, Steele seemed entirely at ease, too at ease, like a predator in its natural habitat. The human speaks for a warmongering species that's expanding too rapidly. Another voice called out. Agreement rippled through the chamber. Steele remained motionless, hands clasped behind his back, but I saw the slight shift in his stance, the almost imperceptible tension in his shoulders. Having studied human body language extensively, I recognized these as warning signs, but warning signs of what the Council has concerns. High Chancellor Vex intervened. Their patterns now showing clear diplomatic patterns. Your species' military expansion is well within the limits set by the Galactic Accord. Steele interrupted smoothly, which I'm sure you're aware of, Chancellor, just as I'm sure you're aware that this theatric display of disapproval violates at least 616 diplomatic protocols. The chamber erupted in outrage. I watched as Security Chief Raina Merck signaled her forces to move into position, a standard precaution during heated sessions. But something felt wrong. The pieces weren't fitting together. Why send a single diplomat? Why Steele? And why did the way he stood remind me of the apex predators from my home world? Perfectly still until the moment they struck, I had a terrible feeling we were all missing something vital, something that would soon become painfully obvious. The humans have established 37 new military outposts in the past solar cycle. Daxter's voice boomed through the chamber. The crystalline counselor's form sparkled with agitation, fractal patterns of rage spreading across his surface, each outpost capable of supporting a battle fleet. I watched Steele's reaction carefully. Most species would show signs of intimidation when faced with our impressive display. The human merely raised an eyebrow. Defensive installations, Steele corrected, his voice carrying effortlessly through the vast space, each positioned to protect our legitimate mining operations in colony worlds? Or would the Council prefer we leave our citizens undefended against pirates and Raider Security Chief Raina Merck move closer to the central platform, her scaled tail twitching with barely contained aggression? 6 of her elite guards took up flanking positions, standard procedure, but something about their positioning seemed deliberate. Pirates, Daxter laughed a sound like shattering glass. The only pirates in that sector are human privateers. We have proof of your government's involvement in unsubstantiated accusations. Steele cut in. But since we're discussing proof, perhaps we should examine the recent weapon shipments from your own territory to the Crimson Blade Collective. The chamber went deadly quiet, rising tensions. I noticed High Chancellor Vex bioluminescence shift to patterns indicating extreme alarm. The Crimson Blade Collective, that was classified information, the kind that got people killed. How dare you? Dashi Thor's crystalline form pulsed with chromatic rage. Security, this human is clearly a spy. Detain him. For questioning what happened next occurred so quickly that even my compound eyes struggled to process it. Security Chief Merck raised her neural stunner. Steel moved, no flowed like liquid mercury. The stunner went flying. 3 guards rushed him simultaneously. The human's movements were precise, economical, lethal. The first guard's exo armor shorted out with a precise strike to its power core. The second found himself floating helplessly, anti-grav belt hacked with a small device. Steel had palmed the third guard. I actually pied enough. Steele's voice cut through the chaos. He stood unruffled, straightening his suit cuffs as if he'd merely paused for a minor inconvenience. The third guard lay groaning, multiple appendages bent at unnatural angles. This is an outrage. Daxter bellowed. You dare assault Council security? Technically, Steele replied calmly, your security assaulted a diplomatic representative protected under Article 7 of the Galactic Accords, an act that could be considered a declaration of war. More security forces poured in from the upper levels. I noticed Steele's eyes tracking each entry. Point his weight shifting slightly. What training allowed a diplomatic representative to move like that? The human is correct. High Chancellor Vex patterns now showed extreme distress. Counselor Daxter, you have exceeded your authority. Security forces stand down. Chancellor Merck protested, nursing what appeared to be a dislocated shoulder. The human is clearly the human. Steele interrupted, is still waiting to discuss the actual agenda items unless there are more illegal detention attempts planned. A horrifying thought struck me. The gaps in Steele's diplomatic records, the missing information, the way he moved weight. I called out, my translator struggling to convey the urgency in my voice. Everyone needs to stop. Now check his diplomatic credentials. Again, the full database. Daxter sneered. We verified his credentials. Ambassador Krill Marcus Steele, human, diplomatic corp appointed 3 cycles ago. Check his military records. I insisted before the diplomatic appointment. Steele's gray eyes met mine for a moment. I saw something there, a flicker of respect perhaps, or amusement. Sir, one of Merck's junior officers called out, voice shaking. Records coming through now. Marcus Steele, former commander of human special operations. Call sign gods. Preserve us, Baba Yaga. The chamber erupted in panic. Even I felt my sensory membranes contract. In fear, Baba Yaga, the ghost of New Damascus, the operative responsible for single-handedly ending the consortium, wore a human so deadly that mere rumors of his presence caused entire rebel fleets to surrender, and we had just tried to arrest him. Now then, Steele spoke into the terrified silence, straightening his tie. Shall we return to the actual diplomatic discussions, or would anyone else like to violate international law today? The council chambers buzzed with panicked whisper. Security Chief Merckx backed away slowly, her scales shifting to a pale blue of extreme distress. I watched as the realization spread through the assembly. We had not only threatened, but attempted to detain the most dangerous human operative in known space. The ghost of New Damascus. Chancellor Vex whispered, their bioluminescence nearly dim. I remember the reports 3 cycles ago at the height of the consortium wore the New Damascus system. Held by the most brutal warlords in the sector, their fortress world was considered impenetrable. 15 previous assault forces had failed to breach its defenses. Then came the night of silence. The fortress's automated distress signals activated at precisely 0300 Galactic standard. I found myself recounting memories of the intelligence briefings flooding back when the relief fleet arrived. A Found the entire command structure eliminated, over 300 elite guards neutralized, defense systems manually overridden, and on the central command screen a single message. Consider this a diplomatic warning. Steele stood quietly watching us with those unnerving gray eyes, not denying, not confirming. Just watching. One operative, Daxter, muttered, his crystalline form vibrating with newfound fear. The reports claimed it was one human operative. We dismissed them as propaganda. 37 high-priority targets eliminated in under 6 hours. Mercs added her professional interest, seemingly overwhelming her fear. No energy weapons, no explosives, no traces found on any security feeds. The investigator said it was like a ghost had passed through the chambers. Lights flickered. Suddenly, several representatives gasped. I noticed Steele's lips curve in the slightest of smiles. But that's impossible, a voice called from the upper galleries. The security systems at New Damascus were state-of-the-art, the best in the galaxy, much like the systems protecting this chamber. Steele asked quietly. The lights flickered again, longer this time. Warning indicators flashed across multiple control panels. Chancellor Vex's pattern shifted rapidly. What's happening to our systems? A simple demonstration, Steele replied, pulling a small device from his pocket. Not a weapon, a standard Diplomat. Revealed diplomatic data pad. Your security protocols are impressive, almost as impressive as New Damascus. Almost. The chamber's main displays activated, showing security feeds from 3 cycles ago. New Damascus, the fortress, the impossible mission, a shadow moving through corridors, guards falling silently, security systems deactivating one by one. The figure never fully visible, just glimpses, a dark suit, precise movements, gray eyes. My government tried. Diplomatic channels first, Steele explained, his voice carrying clearly as the footage played. We sent 17 formal protests about the consortium's ACT actions, all ignored. So they sent me one last diplomatic visit. You might say the light stabilized, but the damage was done. The message was clear. The chamber's supposedly impenetrable security was already compromised when they appointed me as diplomatic representative. Steele continued, putting away the data pad. It wasn't just for my negotiation skills. It was a message, one I had hoped wouldn't need demonstrating today. I noticed small details now that I'd missed before. The way his suit was cut to allow maximum mobility, the slight calluses on his hands visible during certain gestures, the way he always maintained line of sight with multiple exits. The ghost of New Damascus. Someone whispered the Baba Yaga, a ridiculous nickname. Steele commented, I much prefer Ambassador. Warning lights continued to flash across the chamber's control system. Security protocols engaged and disengaged. Ran L doors cycled open and closed. The entire chamber was effectively under his control. How Merc demanded professional pride, wearing with fear. These systems are isolated, unhackable. Steele's gray eyes met hers. Are they? When was the last time you checked the maintenance logs for access panel 2187, the one behind the third-level environmental controls? Amazing what can be accomplished during a routine pre-meeting security sweep. The chamber fell silent again. He had been here before the meeting, had walked through our most secure facility, had prepared just in case. Now then, Steele straightened his tie once more. I believe we were discussing military installations and defensive protocols, unless anyone else would like dinner gone wrong. A further demonstration of human diplomatic techniques. No one did. The calm shattered when Counselor Daxter made fatal mistake. Kill him, kill the human before he kills us all. Red emergency lights bathed the chamber in a bloody glow as elite guards poured in from every entrance. My compound eyes tracked 37 armed personnel, all converging on Steele's position. In any rational universe, those odds would mean certain death. But Marcus Steele, it seemed, didn't operate in a rational universe. Last chance, Steele announced, removing his suit jacket with deliberate slowness. Stand down, and we can return to diplomatic solutions. They didn't stand down. The first wave rushed him from 3 directions. Steele moved like water through cracks flowing between their attacks. A neural stunner discharged, missing him completely and dropping 2 guards on the opposite side. He caught another guard, armored fist, redirecting the momentum into a perfect throw that sent 3 more attackers sprawling. Fascinating. I found myself muttering, recording every detailed tale. No wasted movement, each action serving multiple purposes. The second wave attacked with sonic weapons. Steele dropped and rolled, coming up with what looked like a small silver sphere. The device pulsed once, and every sonic weapon in the chamber shorted out in a cascade of sparks. Hands, Mark bellowed, close quarters, don't let him reach his equipment, more guards rushed in. Steele's fighting style shifted, instantly adapting to the new threat. Here was data worth 1,000 research papers, a human in peak combat efficiency. He used the chamber itself as a weapon. Environmental control panels became improvised shield support pillars, provided leverage for devastating throws. Even the polished floor served as purposes the scattered equipment from disabled guards, becoming dangerous. Projectiles under his precise kicks. The Ghost wasn't just a nickname I transmitted to Chancellor Vex, who had wisely retreated to a safe distance. Watch how he moves, always in the blind spots, using the chambers as architecture to appear and disappear. Psychological warfare, combined with physical combat. Council members were fleeing in panic. Now the lucky ones made it to the exits before Steele triggered whatever he'd done to the security system's emergency. Bulkheads slammed down, sealing the chamber. We were locked in with him, or more accurately, they were locked in with him. Someone restore the security systems. Daxter's voice cracked with fear. His crystalline form had lost all its earlier arrogance, now huddled behind a flank of guards. Trying, sir, a technician called from a control panel. He's locked us out completely. The systems aren't even recognizing our command code. Steele had worked his way to the chamber central platform. 10 guards lay groaning or unconscious in his wake. Not dead, I noted that detail specifically. He could have killed them easily, but chose not to. Your species is insane, someone shouted from the galleries. No wonder you're expanding so rapidly. You're all combat engineered monsters. Steele's laugh echoed through the chamber. Combat engineered? Hardly. This is just good old-fashioned human training. And about 30 years of experience. He caught a guard's punch, used the momentum to spin them into another attacker, then somehow turned their tangled fall into a launch point for a leap that carried him to a higher gallery. 3 more guards dropped from precise strikes to nerve clusters I hadn't even known existed in their species. Remember New Damascus, a panicked voice called out. The reminder sent another wave of fear through the chamber. I watched Steele's expression change slightly at those words. Something dangerous flickered in those gray eyes. New Damascus, he said quietly, yet his voice carried to every corner of the chamber. BR was a message, one that some of you seem to have forgotten. He reached into his pocket, pulling out what looked like a standard communications device. The chamber's main screens lit up again, showing New Damascus, but not the silent fortress invasion we'd seen earlier. This was aftermath footage. Rescued slaves from a dozen species, children reunited with parents, medical ships arriving with aid. The consortium's secret laboratories exposed the true reason for the mission. I went to New Damascus because diplomacy failed. Steele continued disabling 2 more guards without even looking at them. The consortium ignored warnings, violated treaties, committed atrocities. Today, some of you chose violence over diplomacy like they did true identity. The remaining guards backed away. Slowly, even Merc lowered her weapon, finally recognizing the futility of the fight. The difference, Steele straightened his shirt cuffs, somehow still immaculate despite the combat, is that today I'm still operating in a diplomatic capacity, which means you all get a second chance to make the right choice. He touched another control on his device. The emergency bulkheads lifted. The security systems reactivated under council control. The chamber returned to normal lighting. 43 disabled guards, 15 damaged security systems, 1 unruffled human diplomat, and a lesson about humanity that none of us would ever forget. Check their neural implants, Steele commanded, pointing at the disabled guards, specifically the recent command upload. Security Chief Merc, now much more cooperative, ran the scans herself. Her scales shifted to a deep purple shock and rage. These aren't standard security protocols, she hissed. These are wet work combat routines, assassination parameters. She turned to Daxter, tail whipping in fury. You loaded kill pro calls into my people's minds. Chancellor Vex drifted forward, patterns blazing with official authority. Explain yourself, Counselor Daxter. The crystalline being's surface clouded with fear. Patterns. The human knows too much. He found evidence of our deals with the Crimson Blade Collective, the weapon shipments, the technology transfers, the stage pirate attack. Steele walked calmly down from the gallery. Every step measured. You mean the evidence I planted 3 days ago, the falsified records that any decent investigation would prove wrong? He smiled. Thank you for confessing to the real operations in front of the entire council. My sensory membranes tingled as the full scope of his strategy became clear. You wanted them to try to kill you. I broadcasted in wonder. You knew they'd panic and Reveal everything. A theatrical approach, Steele admitted. But sometimes that's the best way to expose corruption, is to let it expose itself. Though I admit I didn't expect them to go so far as to override security personnel's free will. Merck's guards were waking up. The assassination protocols purged from their systems. Their expressions shifted from confusion to rage as they realized how they'd been used. You can't prove anything. Dax Thor's crystal surface fractured with panic patterns. This is all a human plot. To do what Steele interrupted, to expose your collaboration with pirates, your illegal weapons sales, your attempted assassination of a diplomatic representative. He turned to address the full council. My government has known about these operations for months. We could have sent a battle fleet, could have responded with force. He gestured to the still disabled security systems, could have let an old ghost handle things the new Damascus way. A shudder ran through the chamber. Instead, Steele continued, we chose diplomacy, gave you a chance to address the corruption internally, and when that failed, he shrugged. Sometimes the best diplomatic solution requires a demonstration of alternatives. Chancellor Vex pattern shifted to formal judgment mode. Counselor Daxter, you and your conspirators are hereby detained pending full investigation. Guards, they're real guards, not their puppets. Take them into custody. As Daxter and several other council members were led away, I noticed Steele watching with an oddly satisfied expression. You could have killed them all. I observed at New Damascus. You eliminated the entire command structure at New Damascus. They gave me no choice, Steele replied quietly. Today was about preventing another New Damascus. Sometimes mercy makes a stronger point than violence. The political implications were staggering. Human diplomatic operations would gain tremendous influence. The COR up council members' removal would shift several key voting blocks, and every species in known space would remember that humans preferred to send diplomats first. But those diplomats might just be ghosts in final showdown. Disguise one question. I ventured the security systems. You could have shut them down completely. Why just disable them? Steele's gray eyes met mine. Because this was a diplomatic mission, Ambassador Krill. If I'd wanted to cause real damage. He left the sentence unfinished. The message was clear, crystal clear. As Daxter might have said, that the formal apology ceremony took place 3 days later in the same chamber where Steele had demonstrated humanity's unique approach to diplomatic relations. I noted with some amusement that the repair crews were still replacing damaged security panels. The Galactic, Kunil, extends its deepest apologies to the Human Diplomatic Corps and Ambassador Marcus Steele, Chancellor Vex, and announced their patterns displaying maximum formality. The actions taken against Earth's representative were unconscionable. Reparations will be paid, and all human military installations are hereby formally recognized as legitimate defensive positions. Steele stood on the central platform, once again the picture of diplomatic perfection, in a fresh black suit. No sign remained of the warrior who had disabled 43 armed guards. But now everyone saw past the polished facade. Earth accepts the Council's apologies. Steele responded smoothly. We look forward to continuing peaceful diplomatic relations. The implications of peaceful hung in the air like a drawn blade. Security Chief Merck approached Steele after the ceremony. Her scales now a respectful deep blue. My teams are implementing new training protocols. We'd be honored if you would review them. Of course, Steele smiled. Though I suggest focusing L on combat and more on detecting false command uploads. The best security is preventing the need for violence. The changes rippled through galactic society like waves from a supernova. New diplomatic protocols were established. Every species suddenly discovered pressing reasons to review their treaties with Earth. Several trade disputes mysteriously resolved themselves, but the most fascinating changes were subtle. I observed them during subsequent council sessions. When human diplomats spoke, people listened. When humans suggested compromise, people compromised. When humans mentioned military installations, no one questioned their defensive nature. A profound shift in species dynamics. I noted in my final report to the Nexian Empire. Humans have achieved something unprecedented. Respect based not on fear of their strength, but fear of their restraint. 1 month after the incident, I found Steele in the Chambers' observation lounge, watching the 3 artificial suns' new galaxy order set. You've changed how the galaxy sees humanity. I said no. He replied, those gray eyes reflecting the dying light. We've changed how the galaxy sees itself. Everyone knew Humans could fight now. They know we prefer not to the ghost of New Damascus, who chose to be a diplomat. I mused. Was that the plan all along? Steele straightened his tie. That habitual gesture I now recognized is a combat telemicro movement, disguising ready stance. Humanity learned something important during our early wars. He said true power isn't about who can cause the most damage. It's about who can afford to show the most mercy. He turned to leave. Then pause. You know what the scariest thing about New Damascus was? Ambassador Krill, not that one human could do it, but that we chose to send one human instead of an army, because we wanted to minimize casualties. I watched him walk away, my compound eyes capturing every angle of his departure. In that moment, I finally understood what made humans truly dangerous. Not their ability to fight like demons, not their skill at appearing harmless, but their insistence on trying diplomacy first, backed by the absolute certainty that diplomacy was not their only option. The council chambers were quiet now, the repairs complete, the security systems upgraded. But something remained changed. In the silence, in the shadows, everyone heard the same whisper warning: the humans are watching, and they're sending diplomats for now.